A roll release, archaic idea or something we should still be trying to do in our golf swings? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to the studio. So we're going to talk about the rolling release. So what does that mean? Different terminology, right? So a lot of people, when you talk about using a lot of rotation in the face, they would call that flipping. I always considered a flip to be when you were trying to add loft to the club. But whatever you want to call it, when the face rolls over quickly, let's just call it for now a rolling release. Where did that come from? So if you think about the history of golf as it translated over here from Scotland, what kind of clubs did they play with? Hickory shafts, right? So we all know the hickory shafts would actually torque open in the downswing. So what did those guys figure out as they're playing their low hooks to fight the wind? They would roll the shaft over, which would close the face. So that came over here, and even as late as the early 90s, that was being taught as the way to square the face. So bless our hearts, those of us who were taught that became pretty good at it. And so then what we learned to present was an overly closed face at impact, and very, very hard to be consistent. Let's just put that out there as the problem. If you think about a club face that's turning over 180 degrees from about waist high to waist high, the amount of practice that you have to do to be able to time the exact moment when that club face is going to be square is enough to make you a little crazy, because you're going to have days where you can do it perfectly and days where it's a little too close, a little too open. So to me, that's the big problem. Now, are there some people who need to do that? And of course, that's a matter of opinion. But you'll still hear some pretty good teachers talk about, because you think about, we have to try to give someone help, right? That's our job. And if a player's constantly presenting an open club face and they're going, listen, I'll do pretty much anything you ask me to do if you'll just help me get the club face closed, and you've tried other things and their brain just can't absorb another idea, then occasionally we'll have to teach someone to roll the face over. Not my preference, but sometimes you have to do what you got to do. But long story short, it's a very volatile club face going through impact. If you think about it this way, okay, so if we just had a ball right here and we go, okay, there's what you have to do to square the face. So I want you to rotate the face just like this. Now, if the ball was stationary, you probably could learn at a very slow speed where that'd be square. But if you think about the shaft has to move backwards and forwards as you're doing this, you can certainly start to appreciate the timing is going to be really, really difficult. So if that's not a good option, what's the better option? If we take the club face, present it square to you, put it over here. Now that may not look square to the camera, but watch this, that's still square, right? So if I can get you to go from here to there, is the face still square? You'd say, well, of course, let's put it down on the floor. Absolutely square, square no matter how we look at it. But how did I make it square here? Well, obviously it was influenced by the way I took it over here and the movements that I'm using to take the club head to the ball or to the camera, right? So that is what? Body rotation. So that means if we can get the club here, which would be here standing up, right, matches my spine angle, then the only thing I'd have to do to put this club, which is already square in front of me, which would be to rotate, right? And to me, that's what a lot of the younger players are doing on tour. You might call that a tour release. It's a very stable release because there's no revolving the face over, okay? All right, so we have two options, right? We can hope and pray that we can time that club face basically rotating 180 degrees from about waist high to waist high. And you know, you've heard that old drill, right? Toe up to toe up, and you'll see people practicing this. They even make training aids, which I used to use and wish had never been invented. But that gets that look through impact. You'll see, of course, some body rotation, but a lot of people end up there. You'll see the butt end of the club from this view. So that is a very unstable face. Can you time it? Sure you can if you practice a lot, but you're not going to be able to time it from day to day. You look at players on tour who use that release, Mickelson, Luke Donald, some of those guys, of course, great players, and that's the other point, right? You and I could have a discussion on just about any technical aspect of the swing, and we could have an argument and say, yeah, but Mr. Smith plays on tour and he does this thing that you're saying not to do. And I would say, well, of course, you can point out anybody on tour who does something slightly less unorthodox. But again, most of those players have learned to do that from a very young age, and they have the luxury of hitting thousands of balls a week, and they have to do that to keep that timing. For the rest of us who don't have that kind of time and wouldn't want to do it if we had that much time, we need a more stable release, don't we? So option one, roll it over. What if we just had, and we'll use this example standing tall, okay, the face is toe up, but it's matching my spine angle. If I just give a little hip turn and go rotate everything, is that club face square? Well, you can't see it, right? So over here, is that club face square? Absolutely. What did I do to square it? Well, I had it in a pre-squared condition, but how did I get it to the ball? Just rotated my body, right? So everything's moving together. Would that be more stable as a way to deliver a face, or should we be trying to do this one? Again, matter of opinion, but if you want to be more consistent, which I haven't had anyone come to me yet and go, you know, the problem is I'm too consistent and I just really would like to get out of it. No, everybody wants to be more consistent. And they're talking about, most of us, the direction we hit it, right? So again, we can try to be consistent with this activity, but I think it's just a lot more smart, especially if you don't have a lot of time to practice, to just get into this feel of how can we get the body and club to move more together. So that is, this face angle matches my spine. Everything moves together. Now from down the line, you're going to see a lot of those guys look like this versus the roll releasers are going to look like this, right? So that's how you get those two different pictures. So that's just a little bit of discussion. We could probably talk a lot longer, but I wanted to show you that even though this sounds very good, it's just a high maintenance type of move.